Hi, Mike Masters from GE Aviation's Customer Training Services in Cincinnati. And in this CF6 Maintenance Minute, we're going to look at proper removal and installation of the spinner cone of the CF6 ADC tool. Now this will apply specifically to the ADC tool, will not apply to the E1. The E1 has a completely different two-piece type of spinner design. One of the things you want to keep in mind is actually during the removal of the spinner bolts. When the spinner bolt comes out, here we see just the bolt, but we know that each bolt is fitted with one of these chamfered washers. It's very common for these chamfered washers to sort of get stuck there in the bolt recess, if you will. So make sure that when you pull the bolts, all of the chamfered washers are accounted for as well. Okay, and now with all of our spinner bolts removed, all the chamfered washers accounted for, we're ready to release the spinner from the fan disc. This is the proper tool for that task. This is not. I cannot stress this enough to you. Always, always, always use the proper spinner removal tool to release the spinner from the disc. Never use a screwdriver or any improvised kind of tooling. This is one of our semicircular wrenching slots on the spinner. There are two of them side by side on one side of the spinner, then 180 degrees away there are two more on the other side. Notice how the tool is shaped exactly like that wrenching slot. So we put the tool, Teflon side of the tool, towards the fan blades. The tool fits the profile of that slot perfectly, as it should. That's what it's for. What happens is if we're in a hurry and we cannot find that tool, what have you, if we use a screwdriver instead, notice how if I were to pry this with a screwdriver, I'm only making contact with a very small surface area there of the wrenching slot. And what that does is it puts a whole lot of stress into one localized area of the spinner material, and over time what happens is we begin to develop cracks. And this is not something that may happen. We've seen it happen in the past. Cracks have begun, or they've propagated, met up, and spinners have actually come off in flight. That's what we're trying to avoid here. So again, the Teflon side of the tool towards the fan blade. Obviously the Teflon is there to protect the fan blades. Tool into the slot. Just a little bit of pressure. And a little on the other side. There we go. Spinner's released, and it's now resting on the three spinner guide pins that I've installed. And while we're at it, with the spinner removed, we're now looking at the various fan disc posts. Notice how this one is stamped with an OS. That stands for offset. And what that means is that bolt hole is located in that fan disc post a little differently than the others. That is so we orient the spinner to the fan disc the same way every time it's removed. The next adjacent fan disc posts in the direction of fan rotation will each be stamped with a 1, like you see here. That's indicating that that is the location of number 1 fan blade. Okay, and as we prepare for spinner reinstallation, this is the seal that goes between the spinner and the fan disc itself. Notice that one edge of it is sort of tapered and pointy. That's the side that goes towards the fan disc. The rounder edge stays out towards us. Also too, the tapers between inside diameter and outside diameter are different. The outside diameter has a short taper, whereas the inside diameter has a long taper. So always remember that the shorter taper goes out. If the spinner seal is new enough, you'll find 3 little painted dots every now and then around the length of the spinner seal. That's also indicating to you, pointy side towards the engine, painted dots outward, you're oriented correctly. Also, a good maintenance tip, it is perfectly permissible to put a thin coat of white phenolene or petroleum jelly around the spinner seal to help you keep it in position. Now you don't want to go crazy with that and cause fan balance issues, but just a very, very thin coat is more than enough to help hold the spinner seal in location. These are the 3 spinner installation guide pins, and they are extremely useful. during this procedure. The way I like to use them personally is I will put one in the offset bolt hole. And it doesn't have to be very tight, if tight at all. Loose is actually good. Then I'll count, say, 2 bolt holes away. Then the third one I could really put just about anywhere over on the other side of the fan disc. The thinking being, especially if you're by yourself, this is a little more difficult by yourself, but it could be done. If you're holding the spinner and you can align these 2 alignment pins with the appropriate holes in the spinner, if those 2 are aligned, this one's going to be pretty close to aligned as well. So here comes my spinner, and I have my thumb on the offset bolt hole. There's one. There's 2. And over here is 3. Okay, so all of our bolts are now installed, and per the AMM, we crisscross torqued them to the specified value. You'll find that after the airplane makes a flight, you'll want to alert the next line station to go out and recheck those torques. It's not uncommon after the spinner and the spinner seal and the fan disc, they all find their happy little place together after that first flight. Some of the bolts may need a little bit of additional torque to get back up to their specified value. One last tip I want to show you. I'm just going to use my ID card here. I'm simply going to take this ID card around over all of the bolt heads and recesses in the spinner. When I get to one that clicks, that is my offset bolt hole. The bolt hole is positioned just differently enough that the head of the bolt protrudes enough to where I can find it with a card like this. I recommend you go all the way around the spinner, check all of the bolts. If you feel 2 clicks, instead of just this one of the bolts has an additional chamfered washer underneath it, and we'd want to get that extra washer out. Okay, that's CF6 ADC2 spinner removal and installation. As always, thanks for all the great things you do out there maintaining the CF6 powered fleet, and I'll see you next time.